Hi, Imran. I
Pleasure to be
just
here.
wanted to ask, of course, what is your name? What grade are you in? And then what school do you go to?
Oh, of course, I'm happy to say. My name's Imran Allarakhia. I'm currently in grade 10 and I go to Abbey Park High School in Oakville, Ontario.
That's great. And I was wondering if you'd like to share a fun fact about yourself.
Yes, of course. Unrelated to science fair, I'd say I play four instruments, alto, bari sax, violin, and I'm doing tenor now as well.
Oh, wow, that's so impressive.
Thank you.
Violin, that's a bit different from all your saxophones.
Yeah, all the saxophones exact same, violin, opposite side.
Yeah, no, that's so interesting. Wow.
Mhm.
Just for fun on the side, sort of?
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah. And
That's
also in
nice.
like in jazz band slash concert band. That's fun stuff. Golden Horseshoe this week. Fingers
Oh
crossed on
my gosh,
that.
actually? With your
Yeah.
school?
Yeah, we're for school from the jazz band.
Oh, that's great. Good luck.
Thank you so
Sure, you
much.
guys will do great. I think Abbey Park's pretty musically talented
That's kind of
overall.
our main thing. Most people transfer for our strings program,
Oh,
so pretty
oh,
nice actually.
oh, so are you going with the jazz band as
Jazz band, but
mhm.
I also did strings last year, not for Golden
Oh, okay,
Horseshoe, but
I
just like
see.
for fun.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Just jumping straight into it,
All right.
what first got you into science fairs and interested in robotics?
I think you'd want to start with what got me interested in robotics. Well, that started around grade 3, I think. My first project I ever did was an ARCU code inspired pair of glasses. So I was able to read ARCU codes and tell you where in the house you were as for visually impaired people. It was just an interest of mine. I think it was my mom once told me the story about my grandmother who had been struggling with cataracts and she almost lost her vision, but thanks to a surgeon, she was able to fully restore her vision. And after hearing that story and also talking to my dad a bit about technology, I thought I put two and two together, and I did that as my first project. And then what got me into science fairs? Well, at Morden, our old school, it
Mhm.
offered the science fair as an opportunity, and I'd already seen my sister in the past have competed with this work. So that's what got me into science fairs. And then what was my first project was inspired by my first trip when I went to MIT. I took a listen to the robotics section, and that's what really got us to where we are today.
Wow, that's super interesting. Yeah, I definitely remember you, loving MIT for sure. Yeah. In terms of more with CareBotix, how did you come up with the idea? Sorry, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. And the story for that one's interesting. So we have to go back to COVID to understand this. So my great grandmother was in, I believe, Edmonton at this period of time, and she was in one of these senior homes. And COVID really messed up the social healthcare system. It was an intense period, and she had, I believe, Alzheimer's at the time, and she unfortunately passed away in one of these senior homes. And what really troubled me was the
I'm
fact that
sorry for
her
your
death was not even noticed by the doctors till, quite frankly, a long time after it had happened. So that really made me think about the social service industry in contrast to how Canada's demographics are definitely
mhm.
shifting towards an older population. And if social workers are not able to keep up with this influx, this is going to keep happening. So I thought with the development of robotics technology, building more companion intellectual robots is an important development for Canada moving forward, especially since by 2050, 25% of the population will be 65 years or older, with those being 85 and older being the fastest growing segment, with it being about 2.5 million people expected to be above the age of 85 by 2050. And Canada does not have either the infrastructure nor the amount of resources in place in order to facilitate that kind of growth. So that's what really inspired it.
Oh, wow, that's a very interesting statistic. I definitely remember learning about how, yeah, like Canada's population is definitely becoming more just like the older generation. And
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely feel like having robotics in place in like somewhat in like the medical field is definitely super important. That's a great idea. Um, Could you explain more about what the robot actually does and how you built it?
Sure.
I see it's actually is that it right there?
Yeah, right there. I thought I'd bring it because it's a little
Wow.
bit cooler. I'm assuming without the tech lingo because no one knows that stuff. I'll make it simple. Is that best?
Yeah, that's
So, in simple terms, the idea of this research was to develop a full scale humanoid robot that was able to do a combination of object manipulation based tasks and social interaction. So, object manipulation tasks refer to tasks where it interacts with objects in the environment, as well as social interaction, building an advanced human robot interaction system so that it's not just completing tasks, it's actually serving as a companion system. And that's what really makes my robotic system different compared to most other humanoids, because most humanoids that exist either fall into two branches: those that are used for manipulation and task oriented work, and those that are companion bots. Typically, those are the ones that are used for seniors. I have, with my research, I have bridged this gap in robotics, not only having a system that's able to do a variety of complex tasks with object manipulation and now with navigation, but it has that social utility aspect, which is essential for building a
mm,
long-term solution for senior care.
yeah, yeah, that's super cool.
Sure.
What in terms of like the specifics is
Yeah.
what exactly can it do?
Um, honest, right now I've trained it for about 10 different household-based tasks, but with simple data set development, I can make it do pretty much anything. Like this version is unfortunately a stationary-based robot. Its mainly focus was around object manipulation, but linking over to what we're going to talk about further in the presentation, with my new research, I'm focusing now on navigation, actually having the robot move across the home environment. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's super cool. Were there any challenges that you faced when working on the project and creating CareBotix?
Yes, there always will be troubles when developing systems.
For sure.
That's part of the fun of science. It's not going to be a one-time easy bet. You got to go step by step through the process. Some of the biggest challenges from my memory were I work a lot with open source systems as a starting point when I'm developing my robot. So, especially like trying to get open source libraries, GitHubs,
Mhm.
repositories, making those work, it does take a lot of time to polish those up. Another thing, building the physical robot was quite a challenge. There were several parts of the robot I had to go through several iterations of before I got to my final result. For instance, in the original design for CareBotix, this joint used to be made out of carbon fiber, but the problem was the tubing kept coming out every single time. So I just swapped it out for a PLA tough plastic here. Another time when I was doing one of the training, it I built a set environment that it was working in. The robot pulled so hard it destroyed that entire environment and ripped off the arm. That was
Okay.
fun. Oh, pardon. It was
Yeah.
fun. So I had to like redesign the arm, use thicker PLA. I had to increase the infill. That was a
Mhm.
challenge. Another one was working with grippers themselves. I went through several gripper designs because normal plastic won't be able to grip onto objects. So I had to add some silicone covering in order to make it stronger grip. What else was there? There was another issue with the processor in the back. I had to restart that entire thing because when it was flashing it, basically setting up the OS on it, one of the wires came out and it wrote some really bad files on the system, so I had to restart the whole thing. Those are like off the top of my head. Science is not a process of every single time you'll succeed first time,
Yeah, for sure.
your first try. It's a process of iteration. That's key to design. So yeah, it's not easy first time with science, but you can't give up or else you're never gonna make it far.
Yeah, that's wow. I couldn't have said it better. Oh my goodness. Yeah, for sure. I definitely feel like science is very much like problem solving and working from like starting from kind of almost not necessarily scratch. Since you said you are using like databases in the
Yeah,
interview.
using like systems, and also like the more
Mhm.
you do science first, the more you build up on top of one another. It's really that first spark that's the toughest part. Once you figure out what
Mhm.
you are going to do, something that you truly care about, the rest just comes so easily. That's the biggest thing I have to tell people when it comes to like science fairs. It's you have to think of your idea that's not only going to impact the world, but is going to be something you truly care about. Because that helps the rest of the process forward because passion is key to science.
For sure, yeah. Honestly, I feel like what you just said really applies to like pretty much anything in life. Like I
Yeah,
feel like just starting with the initial like thing, just starting it off is always the hardest part for sure.
I fully agree on that.
In terms of robotics again, what was your favorite part of the project?
That's actually that's really tough to say. There's a lot in particular that was fun about this project in particular because this was a massive jump from my previous project. So
Mhm.
definitely just the idea was the best part because like this is a humanoid robot. This is like something
Mhm.
that we think of as sci-fi, something that we think about is like so out there, so disconnected. So the whole process was a lot of fun. But if I were to say one part that was the most interesting, I definitely say messing around this really cool technology called VLA or Vision Language Action Model. So it's able to take, say, a command, an abstract one. Say, for instance, I told it, clean up the room. It's able to take an abstract command, identify what that abstract command means in terms of steps, and then executes on the actions with a visual understanding. So it's a very complex system. I won't get into specifics, but it's one of the newest innovations in the field. And I messed around with one of the newest models at the time that had released. So it was fun being, in a sense, one of the first people to really experiment and even like pioneer the technology, seeing the limits. Because with the VLA and also like some of the other stuff I had to do, like imitation learning, no one had ever really done that, adapted those systems I had used for full scale humanoids in a traditional sense. So it was fun sort of being like a pioneer in that sense. It was fun.
Wow, that's very interesting and new. Honestly, I've never really thought about like with the term cleaning my room. I've never really thought about having to really think about all the steps like with a
Yeah, that's the
robot.
thing with AI. It really changes the way you think because our brains are full of so many processes that happen at the
Mhm.
conscious level. But with AI, you have to think about each of those individual steps and create either a pipeline architecture where you have multiple models doing that, or you have to figure out more advanced technical techniques that make you really think not only just from a logical perspective, like in a psychological perspective, but also mathematically. Because again, I've always said this AI is just fancy math.
For sure. Yeah,
Mhm,
yeah, for sure. AI is definitely super interesting. I definitely feel like, yeah, it was always thought to be sort of like AI and like robots was always thought to be so in the future, like wow, like flying cars,
the future
robots
is
that do
now.
everything for you. No, for literally, like with the CareBotix that you created, like we're already in.
We're already in the future, and it's
Yeah.
gonna get even faster every single day.
For sure. Talking about kind of the future, since CareBotix was your project from last
Uh-huh.
year, are you doing a project this year? And if yes, is it a continuation of CareBotix or is it something completely new?
All right, so yes, I am doing now. This will be my fourth year competing at BASEF and also trying for Team Canada for a spot for ISEF, the International Science Engineering
Mhm.
Fair, and it is a continuation of CareBotix. I'd like to leave a little bit of a surprise, but I'll
Yeah,
just
for
say,
sure.
in every sense of the way, it's a reinvention of the idea using the newest technology that exists and a fundamental rehash of the idea to make it much better than its in its current state, which is gonna seem hard to believe because right now in its current state, it already feels like it's so advanced. But trust me, when it eventually is, once I eventually release it one way or another, whether it
Mhm.
be open source or maybe in the news, who knows, you'll be able to take a look at the differences. And I hope it becomes clear what was necessary to really make this applicable, not only as a prototype idea, but something that's real world viable.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really looking forward to hearing about your project. I'll definitely reach out to you if I don't see it in the news already. I'm assuming it'll probably be there again as it has been for the past few years. Your
Oh, thank
projects
you.
are always phenomenal, so I don't
Oh,
expect
thank you so much. You flatter
less.
me.
Um, about your past 3 years then, since I'm sure you can talk
Mhm.
more about those, what's your favorite project and why? And maybe even including this year.
This year's been, in a sense, like the two merged together. That was a really fun one. I'd say most likely, if I were to rank the free projects, it'd be most likely this one. This has been the most
Mhm.
fun I've ever had in robotics. I'd say second was my first one, the little social robot. That one was fun when things were easy and I wasn't thinking about the trying to beat state of the art. That was just for the sake of doing it for students. Then last, but it's not that's relative. I'd say the glasses project I did. It was actually in some ways I'd say some ways more technical than in CareBotix in some ways, but it was one of it was one of the harder ones, I'd say. So out of the three, this one, CareBotix, then my social robot, then the glasses.
That's super cool. So you've yeah, I definitely feel like I've seen the progression of starting from, like, just the little Pico, like, camera, I think
Y-
it was, sort of?
Yeah, the PicoBot. I remember
Yeah.
that was a really fun one.
Yeah,
And
and then going to, like, glasses and now with an entire robot, like,
yep,
wow, definitely I'm sure this year
this year will be fun.
yeah, for sure. Um, More on the general science fair experience, how would you say BASEF was different or similar to Canada-wide?
I really think the biggest difference between the two is just it's stuff. It's like the feeling. It's just that
Mhm.
contrast from like provincials versus nationals. It's on
Yeah.
another level. Like BASEF, you're in your own region, and more often than not, you're gonna know what you're getting into. You're gonna have friends who are in the area, and
Mhm.
the pressure. It's a competition. There's still gonna be pressure, but it's not at the level like Canada wide is. It's really hard to describe Canada wide if you've never been there. It's not a competition. It's like an event. It's an experience that it's hard to describe because it's not just people in your region. It's the top 400 projects across the entire country, and you're meeting some of the brightest young minds of the year, and it's a very unique experience. It's also like time, 7 days in a new location. The usual cycle is Edmonton, um, what is it? Edmonton, Fredericton, and Hamilton are the three new locations that they're going for every 3 years. It's a cycle they do. So you're not only going to be in this high level competition, but it's also the fact that you're in a brand new location.
Mhm.
To summarize, I think the biggest difference between BASEF and CWSF, BASEF is a competition through and through. There's like a day where you do like the morning activities, but you don't really do much besides just the competition for the 2 days, and then it's the award ceremony. It's sort of like you're there for a couple hours, you're there doing your judging. It's a competition. You feel that pressure, and then you're going. Whereas Canada wide, it's a full fledged experience where you make connections that will last a lifetime. The awards are honestly a side note. Most people will say that, oh, you're just talking nonsense. Of course, the awards the only thing that matters. But I'm being genuine when I say this. The awards are the least important part of all of it. It's the experience, it's the people
Mhm.
you meet, the connections you form, the memories you make, and the ideas you see. It's just, I think the best way to describe it is BASEF is a competition, CWSF is a celebration of science.
Wow, that sounds so cool, and you have you gone to ISEF, by the way? I'm not sure.
No, never before. If I somehow make it onto Team Canada, this will be my first time ever trying for ISEF, and that will
Mhm.
be on a whole another level because
Yeah, for sure.
this is the it's almost I think 2,000 participants who are at that fair across about 40 different categories. It is across the entire globe, primarily United States students, but it's students from everywhere.
Mhm.
Saudi Arabia, Pa- France, England, everywhere, Germany,
Definitely very competitive, but,
highly
I'll
competitive.
I'll be rooting for you this year.
Thank you so
Good
much.
luck. Um, More about presenting your work in front of the judges and other students. What would you say how was it like?
I'd say it's very different between the judges versus the students. With the judges, it's a formal competition, so there's a certain expectation on how you present things. There's a structure that you go through. There's that pressure that exists as, again, it's still a competition. So there's that sort of structure. There's always that good judge where it feels a little bit more casual. And
Mhm.
that's the thing with judging at science fairs versus say maybe like DECA, hosts or other competitions. It's not like a presentation. It's more like a conversation. But it's not as free as when you do with students or the public. My favorite part of the science fairs personally is the public viewing. Partially because like this guy does all the work. I just have to wait for the people to come, and I just get to have that kind of passion explaining it. It's like a variety of ages, especially like with the younger students. It's always fun to seeing them and just their curiosity sparking, and then like thinking that you can be part of that journey, helping them get interested in STEM. So public viewing is always more fun than the judging because you're not just doing a competition. You're influencing other people's lives and their long-term futures because you're giving them a glimpse into the realm of STEM. And even like with adults or like the other competitors, you're not you're not just talking to them like a professional level. You're able to get into a variety of discussions. You can network pardon me, sorry, network with other people as if it's like as a conference, or with other students, you get to learn about a variety of perspectives that can shift how you do your research. So it's definitely a contrast between the judges and the students slash public. Again, it's hard to describe it unless you're
Mhm.
there itself. And I have to admit, it's going to be a great opportunity for a lot of people because next year it is coming to Hamilton. So it'll be a lot more accessible for people who are interested to understand
Mhm.
what is CWSF like. It'll be a very golden opportunity, I'd say.
Canada-wide science fair, in terms of like accessible, sorry, um, it is fully funded, right? By the
It's
or
the
almost.
host is like Youth Science Canada, and then there's a variety of sponsors. There are
Okay,
different tiers of sponsors. It's a complex system, but basically, yeah, it's funded primarily by Youth Science Canada and all the sponsors that come in who help out.
that's great. Science fair is definitely a very accessible opportunity for all sorts of students in the HDSB if they were interested.
Yeah,
Um,
especially for HDSB, we usually, I'll be blunt, we usually dominate at the fairs over the last few years.
oh yeah, I'm sure. I've seen all sorts of HDSB in the news with in terms of science fair.
Yeah.
Um, Along the idea of other HDSB students participating in science fair, what advice would you give other students who are just starting their own projects?
I think we talked about this before, but I'll say it again.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
It's the key to the work is deciding something that's truly something you're passionate about. You can't force yourself into doing a project if you don't care for the idea. Even if there's a real world impact, it's hard to do a project that you just don't care about. So you always need to start by thinking from your own perspective, what is something I care about? What is something I want to understand? What do I feel passionate about? Then take that passion and orient it towards having an impact on the world. That is key to a successful science fair. It doesn't start with thinking from the big picture, you got to start with the small picture. And from there, the rest comes easily. And honestly, the other piece of advice I'd give, if you don't make it on your first try, don't stop. The first time is always going to be the single hardest because you have no idea what to expect. It is a very uh, like on the spot thinking, especially like with judges, depending on who you get as your judge, you have to really think about how you orient that presentation to communicate it for them. And all the life skills that you learn at science fair aren't just applicable for like for real life, but it can also be applied for university because say for instance like poster presentations, you have to use that same logic when you're presenting research at university level. Oh, I think there's like an echo.
Oh no.
Oh no, no worries.
Is it still happening? Or
um it just started recently. It's still going on though.
oh, that's weird.
Hmm.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, don't worry about that.
Is it still happening right now?
Yeah, still happening.
Okay. Let me see if I can get this fixed. I'm not sure why that might be. Maybe if I mute, will that be better? Let's see.
I think that might work best.
Okay, let me know.
Perfect. I think that got rid of the echo. Back to where we left off. Technical difficulties resolved. Actually, I'll take a note on that. Don't expect for perfection. Science isn't from perfection. It comes from innovation and real world, again, passion. When you're presenting, you obviously need to be controlled when you're presenting. You need to be precise, but let that passion come out because that's what the judges care about. Especially at the Canada Wide Science Fair, they've made it plain and simple to us. They aren't just judging you on your project, they're judging you as a participant and as a person. They are seeing whether or not you are a scientist who have gone through this method, who truly understands what you've done. And especially when you want to get to the international level, it's more so who you are and your personality as a scientist that can sometimes outweigh your project. So I think those are my three pieces of advice. Start with your passion, don't expect for perfection, and just keep trying. I know it's oversaid, but I'm genuine when I say this is the key for science.
Hopefully, I'm not echoing right now.
No, it's perfect now.
Okay, great. I definitely want to highlight what you said about passion, and and not expecting perfection, as I feel like nowadays perfectionism is so prevalent in so many people around us, and
Yeah.
definitely the pressure of being competitive to university applications and just trying to get those like awards or having the titles. But you really said it, like the experience is what matters, and I feel like that what you said is definitely very eye-opening and very inspirational for sure.
I fully agree with that.
Bringing it back to you now. So, how have these experiences affected your future plans? Like, are you looking into going in the STEM direction now, or maybe even more specifically for robotics?
I'd say, yeah, it definitely has influenced me forever at this point. Uh, 1 second. I'd say in particular, the biggest change that has happened is it before grade 7, when I started my science fairs, I always try to figure out what would be my main path. What would I really want to do with my life? But these really centered a focus because I got an experience that really shaped my perspective on science and what I can do to make a change. So ever since then, I participated in other conferences. I'm publishing papers right now. I've tried to mentor other students with science fairs. I have completely built my life around my work, my research, and science as a whole. Not just science fairs, but science as an entire whole. And I intend to keep that going for the rest of my life. What avenue I go down, that takes time. That will probably be decided around university. I know what kind of field I want to work in, but in terms of precise career, there are options, of course, but we'll figure it out as we go along.
Okay, that was it for all my questions.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today, Imran.
Anytime.
Appreciated everything you had to share, all your advice for students, and it was just super interesting to hear.
My pleasure.